Oh, that was
Uh,
on Zoom
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
That doesn't count. I was in the freaking four walls of my office.
Well, hey,
That was in the
welcome to
living
Monkey
room.
Chatter. This is Michelle, and I'm here with Lara and Amy, and we're going to talk about retreats and the ones we've taken and wish we've taken.
The ones
and
we've made up
and
as
the
we
ones
went
we made
along.
up, right?
Yeah.
And and talk a little bit about that today. So
Look at
Amy,
Michelle just like
yeah,
rolling into the introduction here in the
yeah,
middle of
come on, let's
things.
we're talking.
Michelle's like, shut up, people. We are
Yes, we're
starting.
wasting all our best stuff. Like, let's start recording this. So Amy was saying she doesn't think she's ever been on a retreat. Have you never been on a retreat?
It's not a structured one. Like, I was supposed to do that one with Lara, and that was March of 2020.
It was.
And they like, or April of 2020.
Oh, that's right. Well, no, the original one, the reason, like, I think we all got so close was the original retreat that we were supposed to all three be on.
Yes.
In 2018?
Let me look at
that's
the
right.
Belize photos.
Completely forgot.
I totally forgot about that too.
But that's how we ended up going to Belize together.
Yes. Yeah. So we actually all three signed up for a yoga retreat in Belize.
Yeah, it's 2018.
And it was semi-sponsored by a yoga studio that I go to regularly, but they actually worked with like a third-party organizer. And I think what happened, and I don't know the details, but what happened was somewhere along the way, the third-party organizer kind of backed out. And so all along they were like, oh, get trip insurance just in case. Did Lara, Amy, or Michelle get trip insurance? No.
I think did they give us some of our stuff back though, didn't they?
We got some of our money back because part of our dollars went towards the organizers and the yoga. But as far as like the airfare and all that, we bought our tickets and everything and we did not get trip insurance. But I think it's because in the back of our minds, we kept telling ourselves, hey, we're going anyways.
We're going somewhere. It doesn't. I completely forgot that's how we ended up in Belize. Wow. That's a little scary.
Yeah. So we found ourselves with tickets to Belize and no retreat. So we were like, let's make our own retreat up. And we did.
Yeah.
And Amy found us a fabulous place to stay.
Yes. Wasn't that a Hilton? It was a Hilton that was
Hilton property.
Yeah, just being built or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was relatively inexpensive. I bet you it's a lot more expensive now.
It's actually not that bad because when, we've talked about doing another something or other, I looked and like, I mean, if you were just going as like a single person, it would, be a little pricey. But like if you split it 3 ways or 4 ways and had one of those houses like we had, it's not terrible.
I would go back to Belize. I think it was a wonderful time.
Me too.
We didn't really do any yoga, but I think there were opportunities.
No, we did not.
We just did not do it. We did do paddle boarding. I recall doing paddle boarding. And I think the place had like a water taxi, and they took us over to this like little secret island.
Yeah.
And the water was super shallow and smooth there, and they had paddle boards. And I remember going out and sitting on the paddle boards and maybe standing up and doing like,
I don't remember this.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the little island though.
It was at their like private beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember going there. I really don't remember.
Yeah, they had these big paddle boards. Maybe we just pulled one out and like took turns.
Maybe.
That was such
like those little huts and stuff.
Yes.
Like out over the water.
Yes.
No, that was cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And they also had golf carts.
Yes, we navigated through the whole place on our golf cart we rented, and I don't know if any of our listeners have been to Belize, but it's a little cray-cray in a good way. It's in a good way. It's very fun.
Do you remember that chicken drop? You went to the chicken drop? I still have a picture of that sign.
Yeah. Don't worry. No animals are harmed during the chicken drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little worried about that.
They don't drop actual chickens,
No,
yeah.
The chickens do the dropping.
Yeah,
not the
dropping.
The people don't drop, the chickens do.
That was fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Really fun. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we
And I
recommend
think
Belize, yeah.
I
We were
think after
supposed to do
that,
it.
and then when Amy and I were supposed to go on a different one that was 100% hosted by my yoga studio,
Yeah.
and I had gone in 2019 and absolutely fell in love with it. It was in Tulum, Mexico, and it was just the perfect blend of everything. Like perfect location, beautiful places to stay, casual, do as much or as little yoga as you want, and lots of like options for excursions, really good healthy food, massages, like, you know, they kind of had it all. And then 2020 came and we were signed up.
Yeah.
COVID.
And
It was like
COVID came.
just a couple of weeks before, I think.
Yes, and in all honesty, I think we probably could have gone, but we might not have been able to come back.
Yeah, I think that was the main concern.
And dang it, I think that would have been okay.
Out there for a couple of years till
Oh
this whole.
darn, we have to stay in Tulum, Mexico for another few months.
Yeah.
On the beach.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm like bad
yeah.
mojo for retreats or something.
Uh-oh.
I don't think so.
No. It'll be fine. So one thing we need to do is find another retreat, because we had been talking recently that we all three want to go on another retreat. And we would love to hear from our listeners too. Like, throw out some ideas if you know of retreats. So like, what's your favorite retreat? Like, what if you guys could go to any retreat, or have you gone to others besides the ones we just talked about that you love?
I was trying
Michelle's the retreat queen.
I feel like, yeah. Oh yeah. Like I love retreats. And then when I was thinking back through, like, how many have I actually gone on? Right. So very few, but, the ones that I've done, I think the thing for me that's the most wonderful about any of them is not being responsible for any of it. Right. So the real retreat for me is like, I'm not responsible for the food. It doesn't matter to me if the hot water's not working, because that's not my problem. It's their problem to make sure I have a hot shower, right? I don't
My
have to
circus,
worry.
not my monkeys.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, so there's something, for me anyway, the biggest thing is that I'm not responsible for any of it. That's somebody else. And Amy, you can appreciate this. It reminds me of when you travel with Eric Haight.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody listening to this who knows Eric, who we used to work with, Eric would take care of like all the details for our trips.
Yeah,
And
you just show up and send him a check.
Yeah, like make sure you have your bags, right? And so for me, like, the biggest thing about them is just not having any of the responsibility of any of the things. Like, just get yourself to the airport. Somebody else will make sure that you're fed and watered and cared for in the right seat at the right time. So I think that's the thing that I like the most about them. When I think of like beyond that, and somebody else I was just talking to recently was talking about really being excited about going on vacation so they could sleep. And I think there's something in that, right? Like, it's so hard to just be able to lay down at night, because like when you're home, you sort of lay down at night and you're like, oh, what's that noise? Or, oh crap, I should have, let me get up and do that one last thing. Or, oh, I left laundry in the washer. I guess I should go put that in the dryer. So when you're home, the opportunity for all these kind of interruptions in your sleep, or not good sleep, are there. When you're away on a retreat or something like that, there's, again, there's no opportunity for any of that, right? Like, you just go to sleep, and then you're going to wake up and somebody's going to feed you and water you, right?
Yeah, that's so
magical,
true.
right?
I just had a flashback from our trip to the Belize when you were talking about the airport and stuff. When our airplane door came open.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you remember on the way?
A picture of, I have that video on my phone still.
So do I.
OMG. And that guy was like, no problem.
Yeah,
We're
we'll
just going to land on this
here.
little piece of land that happens
and it's okay. It just looks like a drug cartel island. It's really not.
No, slam it like a car door and hop back in and take off again.
Oh
Anyway,
my God.
I just had a flash. I forgot about that too.
Oh, I really do have that video on my.
I do too, and that really happened. And we were.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, like for some of our friends who listen might know this story, but for the rest of you, I'll make it short. We were actually flying from, I think, where were we going? I guess we were going from the Belize island we stayed on to the main airport.
To like Belize City. Yeah, because we took that boat over.
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk about the boat in a minute. So we were just flying low in this tiny, tiny plane. I think there were 5 people on the plane.
Yeah, it was,
including the pilot. Maybe no, I think he was 6.
Yeah, it was a little.
I was sitting in the back behind the pilot, kind of, but like near the door, and I was videoing out the window. And I swear I did not touch it.
You have these videos,
but all of a sudden you heard this like weird noise, and the door. It was like a old-fashioned van door that pops open and slides back. And it popped open. It didn't slide back, thankfully, but it popped open, and I could look down through and see the water. And I was like, "Oh!" And I remember thinking, looked up at me in the rearview mirror and looked at me, and he's like, "Everything okay?" And I'm like, I couldn't really talk. I was just pointing. I was like, "Yeah," nodding my head. So he nodded his head back, and he just starts landing us on some random island.
Yeah.
That did look like a drug cartel.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like it was so hot in there. Ugh. And then when it popped, like it was letting air through. And I was like, oh, thank God. That feels better.
Oh, except for the fact that
the window.
It's supposed to be that way.
Nope.
How he like landed? Like
so
literally.
La la la.
Yeah, like so gets out, like walks back, like as if the back door on your vehicle is open.
Yep.
Right.
Like he just pulled into a parking lot, just pulls into Target and like slams the door, hops back in, and we take off.
That was
it.
Truly.
I'm like,
and we all, I mean,
obviously made it.
We survived. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
That was
and I'm not sure
way to end the trip.
I still think it was more preferable to the horrible boat ride on the way over.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
That was like a couple of. That thing took hours. Like, was it a couple of hours or an hour and a half or something?
It's a little while, and it was very rocky.
Well, I think it was sort of like presented in a different way than it actually
like you're gonna have cocktails up on the.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember reading that and thinking, "Oh, this will be really nice." Yeah,
it was like a little water taxi cruise where you were gonna like,
no,
like you're crammed in there, and
we have a video of that too, and it's literally like our heads are about to hit the ceiling, and we look like we're on an amusement park ride.
And that's how we would definitely were on the golf cart.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
We just there was a lot of bouncing around and fear for your life in Belize.
Yeah.
That I will say. Maybe if we had been on an actual retreat, those things would have been that's the benefit of the retreat part. You don't have to deal with all that.
Safety first.
The little details are handled. Yeah.
But it was still such a fun time.
We
did have fun.
It was good.
And then we went and then Michelle got
sunburned.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
And we went out with the bartender on some sort of
So it's a good thing I stayed behind in case they were kidnapped in traffic or something. I remember
thinking that. Like we were asking the bartender or talking to him about like, we'd like to do a little boat tour around the different islands, and what do you recommend? He's like, oh, my cousin has a boat. And we were like, wait a minute, what?
And I'm like red flags are
red flag. He's like, yeah, my cousin and da da da. Oh yeah, it'll be great. And somehow maybe it was the drinks. They were very strong.
Best Bloody Marys ever. I will say.
They really were. But he convinced us, and then we had to keep it quiet because you don't go around the hotel concierge and go straight to the bartender for your boat ride. So we were like passing him cash in the. Remember that?
Yes,
like in cash, like in a little secret envelope.
Oh my god! Okay,
my
these are
goodness.
all like, don't do this, right?
Yeah.
So
By
just a
by
little
the way,
disclaimer.
don't do as we do, do as we say.
Don't do that.
And then I
Don't
remember
do
we
it.
got out there, and so Michelle had stayed back, and they had some sort of like drinks or something on the boat, and I was like,
Mhm.
I am not drinking that because not until I see them drink it, because there is
Listen,
no.
man.
That's how they kidnap you.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, Meanwhile, you and Carrie are like, let's just her.
Oh yeah, we jumped in the water until they mentioned sharks, and we're like, "Are there some?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's sometimes. They're not too far away." We're like, "Okay, get us back in the boat right
Yeah,
now."
I was like,
But
no,
they
thank you.
did. They took us to some beautiful places. We got to walk around Key Cocker, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
We got to feed these crazy fish that jump out of the water and about
They
take
like
your hand
suck
off.
your arm off.
Yeah. And they were great. We got to hold like a starfish and put it back in the water. Like, I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
Even if it was their first tour ever.
And they came back, so that was good.
Yeah,
I
we
got
did
to
come
lounge
back.
around on the veranda and read a book, my favorite
Michelle
thing.
was very relieved that we made it
I
home.
was so, I'm like, oh man, I don't
Yeah.
have to file a police report like in Belize, right? I'm not even in America. Ugh. Anyway.
Well, and that is another reason to go on an actual like organized retreat, because like they do those things there too, and they're all organized with like actually legit companies that we lucked out. We didn't get kidnapped, as you know.
Yeah.
Because we are here.
We might have though if I would have drank the drink. Drank the drink. Drank the drink.
God, Amy had some self-control there. Oh my God.
You guys were like all in, and I was like, red flags were just going off everywhere for me, and I was like, gonna stay right here, and if I have to fight these two boys by myself, we're gonna see how this goes.
You can take them. I think
I was like looking for things around the boat, like
hit them with.
You could like hit them, knock them off the boat with, and we could take their boat.
I was prepared.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My red flags were, and I'm normally not like that.
No, you are not.
For some reason, yeah.
I am. I don't know why mine were turned
Larry
off.
and
I'm usually
Carrie
pretty
were just like,
cautious.
let's get suits and water. See what happens. We'll just drink out of this bottle from these random strangers. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah,
sure. Like me, it's so unlike me too now. Like that wasn't that long ago, but everything's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
oh my gosh.
I would love to find a retreat, and I'm sure there's some out there, but there actually is. So the retreat that I started with was the one that went to Tulum. That one is ongoing, and they're doing it again this year. I did go last year with my daughter, and that was a whole nother experience because we went together and we had a great time. And I mean, the timing was weird because it was November, not my favorite time to go to the beach, but we did have a really good time. And the food was a little subpar compared to the first time I went, and that was my only complaint. And everybody agreed, but again, like Michelle, you said, like, I felt so sorry for the organizers because, of course, it was their problem, but it wasn't ours.
Right?
And we were like, yeah, okay, so some of the food's not great. Whatever. We have food, and we have, our beautiful beachfront villa, and we have yoga if we want to do it 2 or 3 times a day. And we have, little classes, and there were great excursions. We went to like a cenote, and I think we did that the first time. So, I mean, yeah.
Right?
Retreats are definitely worth, if you find one that's legit, that has good instructors, and they're worth the money. And sometimes you can find pretty decent deals. Everything's included except for maybe excursions and maybe your massage or something. But
so we had Lorin Beller, my coach on one of the coaches I worked with on, and she I've been to a couple of her retreats, and I did she's out in California. So this last one of hers that I did, the really nice thing she does with her retreats is, so you're in a house, with, I don't know, she usually keeps it pretty small, like maybe 8 people. So you have your own, most everybody has their own room with a bathroom. You may share a bathroom with one other person or something, but everybody has their own bedroom. It's usually in a big house. And the best thing about her retreats, truly, she has a private chef come in who cooks in the kitchen. So like you can sit there and chat and have a glass of wine or something while she's cooking all your meals, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And she'll talk to you about what she's making, and, and they're always super, super healthy, right? So it's like things you would never think to make at home. Like this last retreat I went to of Lorin's, that was actually in upstate New York. And it was just like we did it during the eclipse. She did a retreat for the eclipse because we were right in so it was really cool. And the food, oh my God, I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you make things so healthy? Like she made these like I don't eat dates, but she made these things with dates that were just super simple. And I'm like, wow, like I'm always just so in awe. And the one in San Diego, so Lorin usually at her big retreats, her starfish retreats, I think she calls them, but the one she does in San Diego, those she always has a like an activity that you don't know what it is until you get there. So there's this element of uncertainty, a little fear, like what's she going to make us do? It's always kind of a stretch thing.
I'm guessing it's not get on a boat with strange people.
Well, so we did. Well, we did actually, because her last one in
she knew who they were.
She did know who she did. Yeah, so she had it under control. But so we went sailing on this sailboat, and which was really quite an experience. And I will say one of our folks got really seasick, so that wasn't fun for her.
That would be me. Yeah. I would be like, oh no, I'm not going on that sailboat.
Yeah. So, but it was really cool. And, she had a guy who was doing all the sailing, and then we got to, help or steer or, do whatever you do with the sails. So that was, and for me, because I have a little anxiety around,
you learned a lot.
Yeah, around water and ocean. I'm like, oh, that's like right there. Like when you sail, like it's like right there, not like when you're on a big boat and it's out there somewhere. Yeah. So she always does a little crazy thing. I think one year she did what else did we do on that trip? Because it was right by the beach. Oh, she'll bring in a body worker. We always have massages like outside, like everybody, is getting naked and you're outside. Like you're just like, okay, well, this is, always a little, like, okay, like here, let me get my towel. And, everybody's very,
release your inhibitions.
Well, just it's a weird thing to be outside. Like the first one she did that I went to was in Scroon Lake, and so we're all out on the deck, right? And everybody has their own masseuse, and but there is a little bit of that element of kind of like
let it go,
locker room nakedness, right? Like everybody's not looking, and it's very
like
discreet.
A birthday
Yeah, right. So that's cool. Like anything when you do stuff like that outside. And she had oh gosh, one year it was yoga, some yoga outside. Another year we had a gal who did a big drum circle with us. So we did, and she usually does some sort of musical drumming, dancing, kind of like, okay, this is like something that you probably don't want anybody to film it.
Like ecstatic dance or drumming so there's a lot of retreats that incorporate all that cool stuff in, and the ones that I've seen that appeal to me are the ones that are like, hey, you can join in, but if you don't want to join in, you don't have to join in. And that's like the one, all the well, I haven't been that many either, but the few I've been on, that's how they've been. It's like, it's really participation really is optional, but they give you really cool things. I forgot I did another little retreat. And again, this is all through the yoga studio. And I'm going to give them a shout out just because they have really, now that I think about it, put together some amazing things. Some of them were joint between the two main teachers. Cindy Hutchinson and Cindy Reed, and that was called Yoga in Unique Places. And you can actually look that up online, yogainuniqueplaces.com. They're doing one this November. So if you're looking for one this November, I mean, again, I highly recommend. The other one was just Cindy Reed, and she did it in the years that we weren't doing the other retreat, like right after 2020. And it was just at this gorgeous farm down in Tennessee. It was probably about a 5-hour drive for me, so it was really pretty western, southwestern Kentucky, northeastern, I guess northwestern, I don't know my directions, Tennessee.
Like
And it was like a big wedding venue, so there were all these little cabins and things where you could stay. And then you had this big beautiful lake that you could swim and float in. And then they had this big like pavilion that we did our yoga in every day, and a little screened in porch area where all of our meals were catered. The food was really good. And then she brought a very good friend of hers along who's also a masseuse, and she also is a yoga teacher. So she helped with the yoga, and then she offered massages in like this greenhouse. Oh my gosh. So that was, and that was a 4-day retreat. It wasn't even like a very long one, but it was really fabulous. And we could drive.
Yeah.
So like there's been some really good ones. But yeah, what I love about those is like, here's what to expect. You can do as much or as little as you want. And ultimately, I always say, like, hey, I'm on vacation. I'm sleeping in. I'm not doing all the morning stuff. Every time I get up and do the sunrise yoga.
Yep.
It's just like, I guess it's FOMO. I don't know, but it's just so nice to be there. And I think it's because nothing, like you said, Michelle, you don't have to plan anything.
No.
Your days are planned out. Your food is planned out. You don't have home tasks weighing you down. So you're tired, and it was like 100 degrees that time we went. So we slept really well. And then the next day you're like, okay, I'm going to get up early and see the sunrise.
Because I think part of it too is, especially with something like that, where there's not like, attending things is optional. There's always a thought in the back of my mind, like, oh, I'm going to get up and do the sunrise thing, even though normally I'd be like, oh, I don't want to get up, but I'll get up because I could take a nap later if I want.
Oh yeah, that's the other side of it. There's always that free time in the afternoon.
Yeah, even if you don't take it, the idea of knowing you can take it makes it easier to get up for the sunrise yoga or whatever.
Yes,
so
yes.
There's that. I just I think the biggest challenge for me with retreat, because like honestly, I would love to just do that for the rest of my life. I could just go on a retreat. I think a retreat once a quarter at least would be lovely. And the one that's on my radar, I was talking to Amy about this the other day, is that Modern Elder Academy just has a new facility in Santa Fe, and they have all these really great workshops and retreats. But the challenge, I think, and for a lot of people, is the expense, right?
Yeah,
and like
I agree.
Yeah, so that's super, super hard, I think, two things. Sometimes it literally is just, okay, I just don't have the money to pay to do that, especially if have to fly somewhere and sort that all out. And I like to go out a day early because God knows shit happens. Sorry, Amy. Put the disclaimer.
Market as expletives.
Especially now when you fly, like the chances of getting where you want to get on time is really slim.
That is true.
None. So I always like to go. So that's an extra expense, right? Because you got to stay somewhere the night before. So there is like the true nuts and bolts of the dollars and cents, right?
That is true. And you can sometimes do a vacation for cheaper than you could actually do a retreat.
Totally, right? Because you're not, and put it together. You're kind of like we did with Belize, right?
Yeah. Although, yeah, I think it was a little less expensive in the end for us to do it that way. Yeah.
And then, but the other piece of it is, I think for a lot of people, and probably women, obviously I understand that piece more than I don't know if it's the same way for men, but just the idea that it's okay to spend like $6,000 or whatever on yourself to literally go do not much. Right?
Yeah, and that sounds like a big price tag to me too. Like the ones I've gone on have not been that much, even with the airfare. But I have seen some that I would love to go on that were in the 5,000 to 6,000 range, and I'm just like, I'm kind of like that. I'm like, do I dare spend that much money on just for me and my mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it is hard. It's like we need to shake that off a little. It's one thing if you can't pay your bills. Like, yeah, you need to pay your bills before you go on a retreat. But if you have a little to spare and you're just like, what should I use this for? Or I'm saving it for, when the fridge breaks down.
Or the car,
or the septic tank needs
or the
pumped.
septic tank, right? Like,
yeah, then maybe it's okay to spend a little on yourself. Like, I would love to do at least one a year. I would love to do more, but I think like just to keep things like in reality, once a year would be great, and splurge on a great retreat where you had all the offerings. And for me, that has to include big water, and it would probably prefer the ocean, like in a Caribbean sort of place or somewhere else, Mediterranean. But I guess a really big lake access would be acceptable. But yeah, like nothing against Santa Fe. I'm sure it's beautiful, and like Sedona, and they have all kinds of stuff.
They do one in Baja,
but it's
right
kind
on the
of
beach.
A desert. Oh, that would be great. I could do that. Yeah, that's why Mexico is so attractive, I think, for retreats, because it's less expensive. Most people can fly there reasonably, and
it doesn't take
there's some beautiful places. Yeah. What?
No, I just said it doesn't take you like 6 days to get there. Oh, yeah. Like, like going to Hawaii or something. Like, it's beautiful,
I know, right?
but
yeah,
it's an entire day.
You get there, you're exhausted. Takes you 3 days to recoup, and then you got to come home.
I know. Like, yeah.
You know, and
that's so true.
The other piece too, like when I think of retreats, the ones that I've done that have been like real, like marketed as a retreat, have mostly been around coaching as well. So there's like a self-improvement or a self-reflection or something that, the idea being that when you come back, you're not quite the same as when you left, right? So the idea of like taking that time and using it to either, work through something, or like those Modern Elder Academy ones are usually around, sort of that transformation of like going from, one part of your life to another, and giving you the space and the time and the facilitators, right? So you're paying for that as well. To work through whatever it is you're working through. So
yeah, and I've had that on the ones I've attended because of who led them. Because one of them's a clinical social worker as well, and she's also a coach. So I think I've lucked out on those bigger retreats because they had those elements. And I think I wouldn't want it just to be about the physical.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There's that element of transformation that you want to experience when you go on a big retreat.
Yeah, that you just can't give yourself at home alone, right? Like you can't give you're right, Larry?
Yeah, right?
Probably like
that was dramatic.
I know. I was like,
I don't know.
We're too far away from the Heimlich.
Yeah, we can't help you.
Nothing's
just sit here and go, are you hearing? But yeah, I think that
okay, so I'm going to switch gears just a little, because here's the other thing I see a lot of, and I hear a lot of, is like a half a day or a 1-day retreat. And I'm very intrigued because I would definitely do these. There's been I've seen some that do breath work, and some other things, but there's yoga, there's just like coaching, where you like go to a beautiful location and you spend the day there. Like there's a woman that used to own the Louisville Salt Cave, and she does breath work and things like that, and she has these little half-day and full-day retreats at a location with another woman, and they just do it's like a 1-day thing. And then there's also like short ones. So there's like Centered Holistic Health, which is our sister space. They have all kinds of weekend retreats, like in the Red River Gorge, where they get a big, huge cabin and they have an intimate group. And they actually had a amazing one talking about getting naked. I have not been on it yet, but I kind of would like to. It's called Women Naked in the Woods. And it's not about being naked, obviously.
Oh,
But the theory
I
is...
I did not take that obviously. If something's advertised as women naked in the woods.
Well, you should see, the funniest part is like we'll put signage up for them because, you know, we share space. And every time we have a sign up that says women naked in the woods retreat, you know, coming this date or whatever, the reaction between the women that come in and the men are very different. And what I notice is women will look at it and they'll be like, oh, women naked in the woods. Okay, that's interesting. Tell me about it, you know, and then I'll send them over to learn more. And the men who see it, the immediate first thing they say out loud is naked women in the woods. I'm like, you're reading that wrong. That's not what it says. It says women naked in the woods. It's like, you're making it about the naked women. It's about women being themselves in the woods.
That is not where my brain went.
Well, you can be naked too, apparently, but it's not a requirement to be naked, but it's also very much encouraged if you want to be naked. And it is very private. So that's a very unique one right there. That's a very unique weekend retreat.
Yeah,
you never heard of that?
Yeah, I might not sign up for that.
Wouldn't be where you'd spend your expendable income.
Nope.
Yep.
That's so funny. It's so funny though how there's something for everybody.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah.
So that
there's couples retreats. There's lots of couples retreats out there. Okay, this is a throwback. I remember way back when I was a kid, there used to be something called marriage retreat or something. This was back in probably the 70s and early 80s. And my parents went on like a weekend marriage retreat.
Uh-oh, we lost Michelle.
It's okay. Yeah. I'm writing something down so I don't forget. Keep going.
Uh-oh, Bill. Watch out, Bill.
I'm like, I have
you
to
better
write
watch out.
Down. Go ahead.
Michelle's writing this down.
We're talking about naked things, and Michelle.
Yes, because I have to share this. It's really funny. But go ahead.
So anyway, so I was just thinking like that was way ahead of its time because these were like weekend retreats for married couples to go and like work through stuff and come back a stronger couple and all that. Now, whether it worked or not, I don't know because my parents did eventually get divorced, but they tried. They did try their best.
Yeah.
Retreat
maybe it should have been naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have helped. Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's very good. But I have seen a number of one day and half day retreats, you know, even online retreats, quotation marks, because
okay, so let's talk about that. Yeah. So I just feel like my definition of like retreat though, like, and I've done a ton, let me tell you, I have done a ton of stuff online. Like, and we're going to talk about this on the next podcast, like courses and that kind of thing. So when I think of retreat, it feels, it's hard for me to think of like an online retreat. Like I think about those as like courses or workshops,
developments.
Right? Yes, right? So, and I love those too. Don't get me wrong. Like I find them super. I just finished one with Martha Beck, but that was like, you know, weeks long, more like a course.
And I think that's a workshopy kind of course.
Right?
A course and a workshop or a class is very different.
Yes.
And I think an online retreat, if you've never, I've only experienced a couple things that I would consider an online retreat.
How did they roll out? Like what was
and I'm not going to name specific ones because one was part of a bigger course and the other was like a yoga nidra type retreat. And I think they were both during 2020 now that I think about it. But so the difference was that you got very detailed instructions before the start time of how to set your face up. And it was almost like this is a requirement for you to get the most out of this retreat is you create your environment, you have candles, you have essential oils, you know, you have whatever you need to make your space low lights, lots of pillows and blankets if that's what you like. Make sure you're not going to be disturbed by animals or people. And you're really creating a cocoon for yourself for this time, whether it's 2 hours or 8 hours. And so that's kind of the first step. And then there's also even like a guide, like, okay, like, and here's what we suggest for snacks. Like, we suggest that you have plenty of water and perhaps have something handy that you can, when we have breaks, you can go make yourself a cup of herbal tea. So you are creating the retreat around you, but you don't have to think about it. They're like, here's what you're going to have available and here's what you're going to do. You just prepare it. And then you settle into your space and you turn your Zoom on and you get this like beautiful, like whether it's guided meditation or yoga instruction, or one time I did a little breath work thing with it. I mean, even down to the clothes you wear, they're like, yeah, you don't want to, you get comfortable. You can turn your cameras off if you want to turn your cameras off. And I have to say, like, in lieu of being able to go on a physical trip, they're pretty good. But you do have to you have to be in the right state of mind. I think you have to prepare your space just like they advise. And also they should give you lots of help with that in detail. So yeah.
And you paid a fee to be part of that, right?
Yeah, you pay them a fee then they give you like an access code so you can get online and be
One
part
of
of
the
the retreat.
things that I find super fascinating about all of this and everything in this space, like live retreats, Zoom, whatever, is, and I think I probably even talked to both of you about this because it's one of those things that I think about, is I find it so interesting that these are all things like we could do for ourselves, right? And yet it's almost like we don't attach value to those things unless we're paying somebody else for them or to help us do them, because clearly these are things we could create for ourselves, and we don't, right? We don't make the time for it. Even going on vacation, like we were just talking about the Belize trip, we probably never would have put that together, except for the fact, now that you reminded us, that our original retreat that we had paid for fell through.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, unless you're creating like a vacation, right? Which I think is different. Like it has a different feel to it. So there's something, and I don't know, because, brains bigger than mine really need to look at this like societally, I think, in that unless we pay somebody to help us create in the online one, right? We're doing all the like creating of this space and paying for the facilitation, right? And for the, but it's not
what you
stuff
pay
we
for
can figure out, you know?
But in a way, I think that's the difference. So it should be something that you're not going to provide for yourself. Like I'm not going to guide myself in breath work. Like I'm not qualified and I don't have the knowledge to do that. So that would be a good example, I think, of something. If it's like a half day thing and you're getting some breath work and maybe they're teaching you something, or maybe there's some back and forth, Michelle, like you said, like some personal growth. That's where you'd be paying for some expertise that you yourself don't have. And I think that's how you should choose if you're ever going to do one of those. And there's a lot less of them now because no more COVID.
Yeah, nobody. No we're all like, I'm not asking to go back.
Screw COVID.
Okay, Michelle. So now I got to know what you wrote down because you were cracking up a while ago.
Oh yeah.
So when Lara was talking about the sign and misreading the sign, I remember being on the road, and Eric must be on my mind because I was in the car with Eric, and we were driving to our friend Kelly might have been with us too. I can't remember who all was with us, but we were driving through, maybe it was through West Virginia.
Dunkin' Donuts.
I don't know, somewhere down there. And there was a huge billboard that said, free beer, live nude girls. And I remember Eric saying, as opposed to the dead nude girls. Just so when you said that, that's all I could think of was it truly is like how you read the billboard.
That's true. That's
I'm
very
like,
funny.
live nude girls.
I think Eric's channeling Twin Peaks and
oh my God, I love that movie or that show. Oh my God. That was so funny. I was just like, huh. My mind wouldn't have gone there. Like when you think about like the differences between like what men and women read, I don't know. Anyway, it made me think of that, Lara, and that was a really funny.
That is really funny.
I was like, live nude girls as opposed to the dead nude girls. Yeah.
Well, that's why there's free beer, because nobody wants to see that.
Oh my God, this is so bad.
This is so down in the gutter.
Yeah, like we were all up here talking about the retreats and all that.
You know, like how we have to spend money to better ourselves.
Yes,
and yada, yada. No. And now we're talking about live nude girls.
I think the way I look at it is, if you're going to spend money on a retreat, you should come back feeling rested, restored, and like a better version of yourself. Unlike when we go on vacation, which a lot of times is super fun, but you come back worn out and you need a vacation from your vacation.
I will say one retreat I went on that was really good. I mean, it was good, but they crammed so much into it. Like I was so tired when I came home. Like I'm like, okay, everything was really like it was like a timeline. Like, and they definitely crammed a ton of stuff in, but seriously, I came home just so exhausted. I was like, well, that didn't work.
I know. I feel like there's a very big distinction between retreat and workshop. And maybe you can do a little workshopping on a retreat, but the whole retreat does not need to be a workshop.
I need like a few hours in the day to like stand still or sit still or stare at the water or whatever. Like if I'm going to go retreat,
we did a good job in Belize. Like we were like,
that was nice.
Busy. Like we did stuff. It wasn't like we just sat around and did nothing, but there was no schedule. I think that for me, like that's the thing is like
the no schedule.
Yeah. We were like, okay, so
nothing's required.
What time do we want to go have our first Bloody Mary? And then like, well, what do we want to do from there? Like, and it was no, just not having the schedule.
Have to do something at a certain time. That was the only like, and the retreat otherwise was very good. Like the things that we did were very cool. And like, but man, I came home, I was like, oh God, I need a kind of a vacation from the vacation, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that's a lot of times what happens on regular travel and trips. And I just, if I go on a retreat, I don't want to come back feeling like that. I want to come back feeling like excited and rejuvenated and like ready to jump into the next thing or whatever thing I came up with on the retreat, you know?
Yeah. You know, that, and now when I think about the flying piece, like you mentioned, you went to that one retreat where you drove, and I feel like for me, because so many of the places are, you've got to fly to and then fly home, and the flying home almost wrecks the
that can happen. Yes.
Right? Like
the first retreat I went on, the Mexico retreat, I missed my connection and it was like panic time and I somehow totally lucked out, got standby on another late flight into a neighboring city. It wasn't even my home airport. But in some unforeseeable happenstance, there were two people there that I happen to know that live in Lexington. And they're like, we'll drive you from Cincinnati to Lexington. And I was like, what just happened? I mean, it was incredible. But I mean, that was just luck. Otherwise, I probably would have had to take a taxi or just wait till the next day to come back to Lexington. So yeah, you're right. That almost like really ruined my zen.
Right? Like, I'm like, that is the only thing. And I've been really lucky, like anything I've gone to or, had to fly home or whatever. I haven't had that experience with any, certainly plenty of experiences like that for work. But whenever I've done a retreat, or like when we went to Belize, or, you know, any of those kinds of trips, I haven't had to like deal with that. But I think it's harder now. Like flying now is less.
Yeah.
I feel like your chance of it not happening is less than it was.
Yeah, unless you can direct
let's
flight.
say.
If you can get a direct flight to someplace, you're much better off. But and
I
I
got
know so
stuck
there's
in
some
Charlotte on a direct, like you can't even guarantee that.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, and now, so the biggest thing I've noticed around my location is a lot of these retreats are international. So I had a good friend of mine who also works part-time for me. Last year, she went on a yoga retreat to Italy, and I mean, they were very lucky. It was fantastic, like no snags at all. And that same studio is doing one to Portugal, I think, this year. And then another mentor of mine, Bethany Bubenzer is her name. You can look her up. She's an amazing coach, and she is going to be leading a retreat at some point next year. And she I think she did one maybe in Bali or something. Like, I mean, she's one of those amazing, magical people that can just pull off a beautiful retreat like that. So, I mean, the international thing that's a whole new twist with like the airfare and the flying and the cost and all that. But it does sound amazing, because what better way to see a foreign country than have someone plan it for you and have all of your stuff.
Yes, if you're going to go out of the country, I feel like that's.
And you're in a group if you need the group presence. Yeah. So there's so many choices now. And I think it's just a matter of like cost and timing.
Committing. Like saying, I'm going to do, this is the thing I'm going to do this year or whatever.
Yeah. And planning ahead.
Yeah.
So the three of us need to just do our own retreat again.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to get something booked. All right. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
been researching some Airbnbs if we want to go that route and do a
nice.
And
I do, like, as I've gotten older, I do have more requirements for my travels, and one of those has become, and this is a little bit newer just from experiences I've had where I didn't have this, I want my own room.
Right? I know.
I can share a bathroom. I don't mind sharing a bathroom, but I want my own bedroom.
Yep. You're not going to sleep in the bunk beds with me again,
and nothing
Sarah?
against when we slept in bunk beds, Michelle, because you were a great roommate, and you were on the top. You even took the top bunk. But just in general, like, since then, I've had other situations where I wasn't in my own room, and I just, from going forward, I'm like, unless it's my daughter, who is a great traveler and we get along great, but even she doesn't want to sleep in the same bed with me. You know, like, I'm like, we have a king bed. She's like, nope, just get me a pull out.
Not doing it.
So yeah, I think that's my only requirement at this point in life, is I want my own room. I'm a grown up.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I like having my own space. Although Amy and I, when we went to wherever we went to, we were each in bunk beds, but not in the same.
It was like bunk beds on the separate walls.
Oh, that's kind of funny. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I've gotten old and crotchety about having my own room.
I totally hear you. Like,
and I think years of travel, like when we all used to work for the same company, who shall remain unnamed, we had to share rooms all the time, and I was like, I don't know.
No, I'm not doing that anymore.
I don't even barely know this
Michelle
person.
and I shared rooms like
a lot.
Oh my gosh.
And you guys, I think that's worked really well, because you guys were friends and are friends, and
we were friends. We shared a room.
Not anymore. When I first started working for that company, and we would go on like our
they
little
put you with people you don't even really.
They put me in a room with some chick I don't even know, and I mean, they all were great people, but I was like, this is awkward.
Awkward. Right? Like awkward. Yeah.
And I was like in my I guess I was in my 40s or and I was like, no, I'm a grown up.
I'm a grown up. Yeah.
I want my own room.
Yeah. I went on a trip with my niece when they turned 16, and my one niece, we had like separate rooms, very lovely, you know, a separate bathroom, like it was really cool. And then the other one, we went on a riding retreat. And I feel like, did we have separate cabins? For some reason, I feel like we share, like, and that was an interesting experience, to share space with a 16-year-old.
Oh, I bet.
With a little attitude now and then. I was like, listen, honey, like, Yeah, you're 16 and you're on this trip because of me. You need to suck it up. Like, I get the
Suck it up.
bathroom first, right? Like, yeah. Oh my God, so funny.
I love it.
We got some good stories on that trip, but
Well,
yeah,
I love this topic. We definitely need to plan something, and then we can report back to you all, or maybe we can even do a recording from wherever we go.
Oh, that would
report
be really
live.
Live.
Yeah.
Reporting live.
I didn't think about a live. Yeah.
And we haven't been drinking that much, but maybe we'd have to have at least one celebratory
have
Bloody
one
Mary.
or two while we were there. Yeah. None of us are drinking that much. But.
Yeah, I'd have to say it's a little different. Yeah. Without and
if anybody wants to throw like their favorite retreat in the comments on the social media or email, please do. We'd love to hear about other ones that you've been on.
Where should we go? Where should we go?
Yeah, tell us where we should go next year.
Got
it. It would be next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
2025. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Well, should we do a quick sign off before we run out of recording space?
Make it happen. How are we going to do it? We're going to try and do it together?
I think that's our best
every time. Every
time.
Okay.
Somebody count us down.
Somebody needs to do the countdown, and then we'll all follow.
It's all you, Lara.
Oh, okay.
You started it. I saw your fingers going.
Okay, I'm ready. She's ready.
All right, ready? Monkey chatter. Monkey chatter. Who you hang with matters.
Ew.
That wasn't so bad.
It wasn't too bad. I think the little fingers help. Monkey chatter. Monkey chatter. Who you hang with matters. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Bravo.
It was just very slow.
Yeah, it was very slow. We can speed that up in audio a little.
Can you fix that, Amy, in editing?
Technical genius.
Nope. Technical genius.
All right, sayonara. Cheers. Ciao.
Peace out.
Peace out.